Oaklander, gotta love that Oaklander. Wanna see that Oaklander, Oaklander, Oakland TV. Oaklander, Oaklander, Oakland TV. Piece of heaven with our new exit on 287. We can be seen on Channel 20, that's our TV. Oaklander, gotta love that Oaklander. Wanna see that Oaklander, Oaklander, Oakland TV. Oaklander, Oaklander, Oakland TV. Oaklander, Oaklander, Oakland TV. Oaklander, Oaklander, Oakland TV. Love it. Catch our fall season.
Good evening and welcome to the Oaklander as we ring in 1999 with our 49th show on Cablevision TV 20. I'm your host, Al DiGiacomo. To start the new year, I'm happy to officially welcome the newest crew members on the OK TV staff. I hope that you had a chance to see Careers Today, hosted by Trish Frisbee, that aired Sunday evenings last December. This was one of the projects that the group needed to complete to be certified to work in the TV Access studio environment. The 30-minute program was flawless, proclaimed studio supervisor Ellen Adler. Andrew Stewart and Steve Lynn directed the two segments respectively. So please join me as we welcome all the new members of the team as we start exploring new ground in the upcoming year. Our first guest tonight is a Ringwood composer, teacher, multi-instrumentalist, John Sheehan. John is a classical influenced guitarist and an award-winning banjo player, singer-songwriter, and he also composes for the lute. So without further delay, here's John Sheehan with Faces of the Past. Bravo, bravo. John, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Al. Pleasure to be here.
Oh, great, great. I know it's been a long time. You've been trying for months to get our schedules together from your schedule and our schedule here. Again, welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about your finger style and how did you get started playing classical music? You seem to be a rather young man.
I don't know about young man, but I picked classical because it was a classical guitar. It was a solo approach to guitar, which I enjoyed. Although they had there was music written for ensembles, there was a great literature for solo guitar playing. And when I first, I guess, got interested in guitar, I was strumming chords, learning from my brother. My brother was a big influence, my brother Bill. And his friends would come over to the house, and then I was listening to Paul Butterfield Blues Band, Beatles. I always liked music, but something about solo guitar hit me about 16 years old. And I think what it was I was bored, no question about it. 16 years old, I didn't know what to do with my life. I was bored. And picking up the guitar, it was a nice challenge. It also settled me down. I was very high-strung as a kid.
Were you?
Yeah.
You seem very mellow now.
Well, maybe the guitar and the lute and the music has maybe age has mellowed me out.
Okay.
Well, music does have I think a transforming effect on a person. If they stick with it, all the hours that I spent learning the instrument definitely taught me how to focus.
So this really helps you on a personal level then?
No question about it. It's I think it's really good for kids or for anybody who's if there's a stress factor in your life, or if there's or if a kid is high-strung, to learn how to play an instrument.
I felt that there was a lot of emotion in that one piece, Faces of the Past. As an instrumental player, there must have been a lot of emotions to come up with a title, Faces of the Past. Obviously, you were thinking about something that brought out those emotions. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, Faces of the Past, some of my earlier influences were composers that had written in a completely different time period than I grew up in. I mean, these composers had been dead for 150 years. Carulli, Sohr, Carcassi. So Faces of the Past are, I play their music. So that was a classically influenced tune. When I play it right, it is.
And so when you're getting into some of your I don't know, your deep feelings when you are writing a song, how does that kind of lead into how you play, how you feel?
Well, a lot of it is on a subliminal, maybe intuitive level. Instrumental music.
Really?
Yeah. Sometimes it's not a matter of being conscious so much of what you're doing as to discover things on an intuitive level. You pick up the guitar and things start to happen. You learn to go with it, and you learn to appreciate that aspect. That instrumental music it's a rather subtle language. It's a kind of an abstract language, but yes, it does bring on thoughts and emotions that perhaps are triggered by the sounds. So you wonder just how vibrations in the mind work and how sound in the mind works.
Everything vibrates.
Even a stone.
Everything vibrates. I'll say it again. Well, listen, you also sing, you also write songs for an average crowd. I think one of your next compositions, why don't you tell us a little bit about your next song, and then we can go right into that.
Okay, the next, I would call it more of a song than a composition, only in that it's basically a country rag entitled Modern Man. I do write vocal tunes, although a real good amount of what I do is instrumental on either lute, guitar, or banjo. Renaissance lute, let's specify that. I do enjoy writing folk music, eclectic folk music, perhaps, is the best way to
So we'll hear this rag here called
Modern Man. Yeah, this is the country rag.
Great.
Modern man, he's got modern problems. He's got a little garage, but a great big car. He's a modern man. Modern man, he got modern problems. He's got many possessions, but he ain't learned his lessons. Modern man, he got many religions, tough decisions, nuclear fission, limited vision. Modern man, modern problems. He's got a little garage, but a great big car. He's a modern man. Modern man, he got modern problems. He's got many possessions, but he ain't learned his lessons. Modern man, yeah, he worked real hard for his little bitty yard. He's down at the bar, he got emotional scars. Modern man, he got modern problems. He's got a little garage, but a great big car. He's the modern man. Modern man, he got modern problems. He got many possessions, but he ain't learned his lessons. He's a modern man. He's got many golf courses. He rides iron horses. He works against the forces. He got few resources. Modern man, he got modern problems. He got a little garage, but a great big car. He's a modern man. Modern man, he got modern problems. He's got many possessions, but he ain't learned his lessons. He's a modern man. He got many possessions, but he ain't learned his lessons. He's a modern man. He got many obsessions, but he ain't learned his lessons. He's a modern man.
Modern Man, John Sheehan. John, we're a little pressed on time here, but I know that when we come back from the break, you'll be introducing a little bit of the banjo to us.
Sure thing.
And we'll do a little bit more talking here, and you're going to play a little bit of your classical music as we go into the break for a little trailer music here.
Trailer music?
So
How about some more ragtime? Is that all right?
that's fine with me. All right, so we'll be back with more music and conversation with Ringwood's John Sheehan in a moment here. So don't go away. We'll be right back.
Good afternoon, officer. My license and registration. Cheeseburger? It's hot out today, huh, officer? Maybe my tail light's out.
Shouldn't you be carpooling?
I guess you're right.
I guess I am.
Carpooling can save up to 600,000 gallons of gas a year. This message sponsored by Ad Council and Earthshare.
Welcome back to the show. We're with John Sheehan. John, you're just a fiddling around kind of guy. I see that you also have brought your banjo along with you. We're not going to hit to that just yet. I just want to talk a little bit about some of the other instruments that you play. You play the Renaissance lute.
Mm-hmm.
Is there much of a call for the Renaissance lute in the area?
Not at all.
Where would you play
Well,
the Renaissance lute?
I do play at the Skylands Manor up in Ringwood at the Manor House.
Mm-hmm.
When they have their house tours. I just did, in fact, the Holiday House tour, a couple hours each Saturday
On
and
December 6th.
Sunday. Yeah, I guess that's when it was. I think it was last week. And I enjoy it. They have great acoustics.
Well, tell us about the lute. I'm
Sure
sure
thing.
anybody wants to hear the acoustic can go up there and actually hear.
Right.
But let's
yeah.
talk about the lute.
The lute is it's kind of a natural progression for somebody who studied classical guitar to get into some lute playing, because a lot of classical guitarists, when they learn classical guitar, they do guitar transcriptions of old lute pieces from the 1600s, Renaissance lute pieces. And it's very similar to the guitar. As a matter of fact, you can, as a guitarist, you can learn to play the lute by tuning your third string down a half step, and then slapping a cape with the third fret. You'll have the notes of a lute, of a Renaissance lute.
And we must apologize to the audience that John was going to bring his lute down here, but it's a very soft-sounding instrument. And one day we'll take our cameras with John, and we will bring the lute and have you perform for our audience with that.
Right, no plug-in. You either have to have a very woody-sounding room, or you have to use a mic. I use a mic sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. Now you also, the style of banjo that you play is called the clawhammer banjo.
Clawhammer style.
And what does that really kind of entail, clawhammer style?
Okay. Well, the clawhammer style is, I'm not sure how old it is, and I'm even thinking it's African, in the way you play is African in origin.
Really?
I believe it is. But the clawhammer banjo, it's not any different than a five-string banjo, a bluegrass five-string banjo, but the style of playing is different. Let me show you.
As you're getting ready to play here, where are some of the places in the area? You spoke about Ringwood Manor. Where do you go for some inspirations or for some new perspectives
Right.
when you're looking to expand your creativity?
Well, there's either people or places is where I usually get my inspiration. A lot of times the titles of my songs are almost in honor of people and places. There's a place in Ringwood State Park called Governor Mountain that's very close to my house, and it's just according to people that live in the Blue Ridge Mountains, it's just a mere hill, but to me it's definitely a place of inspiration. I often take short walks up there and come back with ideas, and it might be that just the exercise itself is stimulating creativity, but I think there might be something in certain places having creative energy.
So this is a song called Governor's Mountain?
No,
No?
that was a guitar tune.
Oh, that was a guitar
Yeah.
tune?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, we got on the subject of clawhammer. That's why I picked up the banjo.
Okay, so I
Let me
guess you're
explain.
going to give us a little demonstration of what clawhammer is?
I sure will. This is the hammer and this is the claw, and that's why they call it that. Instead of picking with 3 fingers, or 4 fingers, or 2 fingers, what you do is you hammer into the note and you get your melody, and then you have your drone with the thumb. So the hand resembles a claw hammer.
Okay.
And that's the basic nature of the stroke. And then you pick out your melodies. Now this dates back, minstrel days, traveling minstrel shows, Civil War. So I enjoy older styles of music, Renaissance lute, clawhammer banjo, as well as contemporary styles of music. And I like to give a perspective in a show from Renaissance times, then maybe early America, and then contemporary.
What are you going to get ready to do first now?
Okay, I'll just do a medley of tunes called Lonesome Linda and Gizzy's March.
All right. That was wonderful, John.
Thanks very much, Al.
That was wonderful. I'm really, we're really pressed for time here. In the few moments that we have, for people who want to learn more about the benefits that you do in around the area. I mean, there's benefits, toys for tots. You do so many good things out of your heart, John. I want people to be able to get a hold of you and find out when you're doing some of these benefits there. How can people? Can you rattle off your website?
Yeah, musicmetro.com/Sheehan HTM. Maybe you can show it on the screen too. I'll say that again, musicmetro.com/Sheehan HTM. There's another one that I
Quickly.
I don't remember it.
That's fine. We'll try to go with that. It was a pleasure having you on the show, John.
Thanks, Al.
I'm just
My
sorry
pleasure.
that we haven't had we have to do an hour or something to do the John Sheehan show or something like that. So why don't you just maybe kick us with a little trailer music?
Fine.
And ladies and gentlemen, John Sheehan from Ringwood here. We'll be back in a few.
car. What really got me influenced into this was my dad, because my dad's always had a nice car. I knew I wanted it blue because blue's always been my favorite color. It makes me feel proud because I have something a lot of kids may never have. My dad's here for me, and they do. My parents do a lot for me. Personally, it makes me feel that I can accomplish something, and I could accomplish anything I want in life if I really want it.
Stop to fill tank. I noticed that the smell is rank. I'm so down. I've got the oxygenated gas.
Welcome back to the Oaklander. For the past 9 years, since the passage of the Clean Air Act of 1990, the state of New Jersey has tried to address the situation of raising the quality of the air that we breathe by constructing HOV lanes for carpools, or with the use of reformulated gasoline, or RFG, to help lower carbon monoxide emissions known to produce smog. This is done with a chemical called methyl tertiary butyl ether, or MTBE. Some people have experienced severe reactions and health problems ranging from headaches to cancer. And because MTBE is water soluble, some New Jersey towns, such as Cranberry Lake and Bridgewater Township, are trying to hold the DEP and the EPA responsible for the rise in MTBE levels in lakes and public wells. Barry Grossman is the president of New Jersey Oxybusters, and since 1993 has become a steadfast advocate against the use of MTBE. Barry, thanks a lot for taking the long drive all the way up to Oakland to talk about this issue. Let's start with the obvious. What is MTBE?
Well, MTBE, as you said, stands for methyl tertiary butyl ether, which is the major component in oxygenated gasoline. Oxygenated gasoline, so everybody knows, was first introduced in the state of New Jersey in November of 1992. Immediately after that, literally thousands of New Jersey residents started to experience health problems. People started getting severe headaches that would not disappear, breathing difficulties, sinus problems. It was probably the first time where people started getting multiple sinus infections over the period of one winter. We brought these concerns to the federal EPA, as well as New Jersey's Department of Environmental Protection, and they ignored our concerns. And shortly after, we found out that everything we were saying was absolutely true. MTBE, oxygenated gasoline, definitely causes people to suffer from different symptoms.
Well, is there any beneficial effect to the environment?
Well, originally, you know, their intentions were all supposed to be very good. MTBE in gasoline was supposed to reduce carbon monoxide emissions.
Right.
That's what it's intended to do. So you would think that people would start to experience some kind of health improvement, but exactly the opposite started happening. This is how Oxybusters actually began. In November '92, I started getting headaches for the first time.
Oh, so you have suffered.
That wouldn't go away. And so I saw a couple different doctors, and they found nothing seriously wrong with me. So my wife had read an article in an obscure magazine where it was said that some 25,000 people in the state of Alaska were experiencing headaches, sinus problems, breathing difficulties, and it was directly related to the oxygenated gasoline. So she suggested to me that I call the editor of the Anchorage Times. So I did, and he put me in touch with somebody there who was ultimately leading a group similar to Oxybusters that was successful in banning MTBE from the state of Alaska because of health reasons. Nothing more, nothing less. I was convinced at that point that that was the root of my problem, and that's how I began Oxybusters.
Is there a way that they can test if someone has been, I don't want to use the word poison, but been affected with MTBE? Is there a test for that?
Well, first of all, you can use the word poison because we believe that people are being poisoned. In Alaska, they were testing for MTBE in your bloodstream, and they found the higher the concentration of MTBE, the more severe the symptoms were. We found out why people were getting sick, because at first, you know, they said there's no reason you should be getting sick, you should be feeling better. We found out shortly after that season that the combustion byproducts of MTBE in gasoline, one is formaldehyde.
formaldehyde.
So when you add MTBE to gasoline, there's a significant increase in formaldehyde, as much as 26%, which is shooting out of your tailpipe. So now when you're sitting behind a car that has exhaust coming out, you're breathing formaldehyde. Formaldehyde is known to cause headaches. It's known to cause respiratory problems, sinus problems. We attribute the dramatic increase in asthma to the increased use of MTBE in gasoline. MTBE, oxygenated gasoline, was never, ever adequately tested before shoving it down the throats of not only New Jersey residents, but all Americans.
Is this something that it seems to be that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I know that we would love to breathe cleaner air. I'm glad they got rid of the HOV lanes. At least the traffic moves now.
Exactly.
You know, you got some at least fresh exhaust fumes coming into your vent. But is there anything else what else can be used in replace to reformulate the gasoline if there is this much of a problem?
Well, first of all, it's important to note that even though, it was paved with good intentions, it was supposed to reduce carbon monoxide, a new report, the University of California, last month, conducted a study that took that was just completed. It says under no uncertain terms, there is no health benefit to using MTBE in gasoline. Okay? So first of all, it's not cleaning the air. So no matter what the substitute is, it doesn't really matter. If we took a couple steps back and went back to conventional gasoline and started looking for alternatives that literally would reduce carbon monoxide in the emissions, that would be an ideal thing to do. But to continue to use oxygenated gasoline when it is a known fact now that it is not cleaning the air is totally absurd.
Well, I also understand that MTBE is water soluble.
That's right.
And as I said in the opening to the show, there are several towns that are trying to, I guess, hold the DEP and the EPA responsible for making this decision.
Exactly. Let me say, 4 years ago, we first learned from the U.S. Geological Survey out of Denver, Colorado, that MTBE in gasoline had the potential to contaminate water. At that point, almost 4 years ago, we brought this to the attention of the DEP in New Jersey, the Department of Environmental Protection. And just like they ignored our concerns about suffering from symptoms from breathing the combustion byproducts, they also ignored what we were saying about water contamination. Now, 4 years later, over 1,900 underground tanks beneath gas stations are leaking unsafe levels of methyl tertiary butyl ether.
What would be a safe level?
5 parts per billion, and over 1,900 underground leaking tanks, it's over 70 parts per billion, as many as in the 1,000 parts per billion in some instances. Let me explain why. Again, MTBE was never adequately tested before putting in gasoline, and it was never tested to see that it would contaminate water either. Unlike other components that make up gasoline, like benzene and toluene, for instance, it doesn't dissipate. It stays put. So when it gets into the ground, it doesn't dissolve. It doesn't go away. And again, unlike other components, it travels much farther and much faster, and eventually it gets into the lakes and streams. And like you said, once it gets into the lakes and streams, it's what we call water soluble. And by that I mean it's almost impossible to remove the MTBE from water because it mixes very well.
Now we had a problem here in Oakland. We had a leaking tank, and we had some, I think it was trichloroethylene or something like that, had leaked into one of our wells, and they had to put a stripper onto it. And because it was I guess a carbon-based solvent that you can put an air stripper on there and evaporate it out of the water. Can you do this with MTBE?
MTBE, like I said, is almost impossible to remove because, like I said, it's water soluble and it mixes very well with water. And eventually, it gets into private wells and public wells, and finally, it gets into people's drinking water, and it is a possible carcinogen. So people are starting to drink carcinogens in their drinking water. And yet, the DEP in New Jersey, they have the gall to move forward with this program, despite the health problems, despite the water contamination, despite the fact it's not cleaning the air, and they continue to deny everything we're telling you.
This is really something, and I guess we really won't find out until it's too late.
We already know.
But is it too late?
Let's hope not. It's too late for a lot of people who've gotten into their water. you know, in terms of long-term effects. Right, we'll never know until it happens. But we do know, based on knowledgeable, truthful scientists, scientists not tied either to the federal government or the oil companies, who are not connected with them, who have no economic interest in it. Truthful scientists will tell you not only does it cause health problems, not only is it contaminating groundwater, but it also causes various forms of cancer.
Now, isn't there, what was the original level percentile of MTBE in the motor fuel, and what is it now?
Okay, originally, MTBE was first introduced in gasoline in 1979 in very small levels. It was introduced at 3% in only high-test gasoline, and it wasn't in all gasoline stations, okay? But in 1992, they increased it to 15% in all gasoline, regular and otherwise, and that's when people started to suffer from all these health problems. And again, we attribute the dramatic increase in asthma to the increase in MTBE, to this 15% MTBE, and we predict that when they finally remove MTBE from gasoline, as they're doing now in other states across the country, though they're not doing it in New Jersey, these symptoms start to disappear. Asthma starts to go down.
Really?
The health problems decline, as was proven in Alaska originally.
This is really an amazing feat, because it seems that if they're putting more into the gasoline, and you also get less gas mileage, I'm sure most people in the area will find that their gas gauge moves a little bit quicker in the wintertime.
Well, that's a part of the whole scam. You know, people have to realize now that they're buying more gasoline to drive the same distance. So even if they weren't charging you more money for oxygenated gasoline, and originally they did, there are billions of dollars being made. This is all about money, big money, not millions. We're talking about billions of dollars. But they have to stop playing politics with people's health, because as was on the front page of the San Francisco Chronicle this week, they predicted that MTBE will be the environmental quagmire of the next decade.
I have lived enough of my life to witness, I mean, too many of these episodes, whether it's Tuskegee, Alabama, syphilis in black people, whether it was the Gulf of Tonkin, and I don't know about you folks out there, but I'm getting a little antsy about these things that we still have to get over after they're done. Before we go to the break, we're coming up on a break here. Why don't you give your website, Barry, in case people want to either gain information or contact how they can maybe benefit, or maybe they've had some health problems that they want to maybe get a little bit of your expertise on.
Well, we urge everybody to look into our website, because it will provide you with just about all the information you'll need to know. And you don't have to take Oxybuster's word for it. There's a number of scientists that are on our website, a number of medical doctors, and so on and so forth. It's www.oxybusters.com.
Give it one more time, Barry.
www.oxybusters.com.
Okay. All right. We'll be back with Barry Grossman, president of New Jersey Oxybusters, in a moment after these public service message. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Oh, baby.
Oh, baby.
Oh, baby.
I'm learning to carve using basic carving techniques. It's just a blank piece of wood with nothing on it, no flaws or anything, and then you start carving and working with it, and it turns into something beautiful. My great-great-grandfather, he was a tinner. My grandpa carved a lot of things, and my uncle, he's a wood carver. I think it's really important to learn every aspect of your culture, every part of it, and give it back, put it back into the culture and teach somebody else.
My eyes are sore and they're charging me more and more. My girlfriend wears real nice perfume, but all I smell are by toxic fumes, I'm so down.
Welcome back to the program as we learn more about the potentially dangerous situation with MTBE in the oxygenated fuel for automobiles. I'm with Barry Grossman of Oxybusters. Barry, has Governor Whitman offered any assistance to this problem?
You know, originally, she projected an image that she was concerned about the health problems that people were experiencing. And shortly after we delivered 15,000 signatures on a petition to remove oxygenated gasoline from the state of New Jersey, she actually made an announcement that she wanted to ban oxygenated gasoline from the state of New Jersey. Shortly after she made that announcement, the New York Mercantile Exchange on Wall Street took her to court and said, wait a second, you know, too many of our members invested a lot of money in this MTBE additive. You can't do it. So she went to court, and the judge did not rule in Governor Whitman's favor. Governor Whitman appealed it a second time, and the judge said to Governor Whitman, wait a second, you have no proof, you have no link between people getting ill and MTBE. So she goes, okay, and she walked away from it. We felt that Governor Whitman did not fight it with any real conviction. At that point, instead of just walking away from it, she should have said, wait a second, you know, here's enormous mounds of evidence to suggest that MTBE is causing people to get sick. The combustion byproducts of MTBE are formaldehyde, nitrous oxide, something else we call tertiary butyl formate. These are all respiratory irritants. 25,000 people in Alaska got sick from it. Thousands, hundreds of thousands of people in California are getting sick from it. You know, don't take her word for it. Take these scientists to court with her.
Okay.
But she didn't.
Now, that leads me into the next connecting question.
Okay.
Who is the major producer of methyl tertiary butyl ether?
ARCO. ARCO Chemical, that's correct.
ARCO is short for?
Is ARCO short for Atlantic Richfield?
And basically, they're Standard Oil of New Jersey. They're the Rockefeller.
That's right. You're looking for a connection here. Yes,
Governor
yeah.
Whitman has herself described herself as a Rockefeller Republican.
You know, every time I come on some kind of show, somebody's saying to me, "Where's the money?" You know, how is there a connection between New Jersey state government and these oil companies? I really couldn't tell you. I wouldn't begin, you know, to suggest or point a finger at anything. But
I'm just making observations.
Right, as well you should, because there's no other.
You said follow the money.
Yeah, there's no other logical explanation, and that's why I say, despite the fact that there are billions of dollars being made, you know, you're talking about people's health. You can't continue to play politics with people's health. You know, when people
not from our level.
When people started getting sick in Alaska, the oil companies actually admit, yes, people are getting sick from Alaska. They are getting headaches. They are getting breathing difficulties and sinus problems. But they should only be getting sick in Alaska because we did not adequately test it under severe cold weather conditions. But at the very exact same time, people in New Jersey, people in Montana, people all over the country said, wait, I'm getting sick too. But no, you shouldn't be getting sick because we tested it in New Jersey. We just didn't test it correctly in Alaska. I mean, you know, they have to give people credit.
Now, they had a strong governor up there that was looking after the welfare of their people.
That's right.
And decided not to sell it in Alaska. Now, what are they using for a replacement in their fuel?
Well, first of all, before I answer that question, Governor Whitman, right, she has to follow the courageous lead not only of the governor of Alaska, but the governor of Maine, the governor of North Carolina, the governor of Wisconsin, soon to be the governor of New Hampshire. Governor Whitman needs to show some kind of national leadership in taking steps to protect the health of New Jerseyans. I believe up in Alaska they switched over to ethanol, which we don't believe is the answer. We believe perhaps it's the lesser of two evils.
Ethanol was the corn byproduct?
Exactly. We want to get rid of all oxygenated gasoline. That's why it's called Oxybusters. But perhaps it is the lesser of two evils. But other states are going back to conventional gasoline until they come up with a solution for a gasoline that will literally reduce carbon monoxide in the emissions. Now, Maine, last month, dumped MTBE, and they're going to follow the lead of Alabama, which came up with a low sulfur fuel, which does not cause health problems. Governor Whitman needs to jump on the bandwagon because we ultimately believe MTBE and oxygenated gasoline will be history. So she ought to jump on the bandwagon and further prevent additional health problems or further water contamination.
Especially in a state that welcomed the chemical companies in 50, 60 years ago.
That's right.
I mean, let's face it, the rest of the country, they use New Jersey, I mean, they think we're all one big toxic dump.
That's right.
You know, I think if anyone should be using a healthier fuel, maybe nothing against Alabama, but it should be here in New Jersey.
Part of the scam, if I might say, you know, Governor Whitman always says that, you know, she's in favor of getting rid of oxygenated gasoline, but she continues to tout the benefits of reformulated gasoline, which is practically the same thing. Reformulated gasoline contains 11% MTBE. Oxygenated gasoline contains 15% MTBE. So while it's, you know, certainly a step in the right direction, it's part of the entire scam. There's practically no difference between RFG and oxygenated gasoline.
Talking about scams, we had a big one in 1973, again in 1978. It was called the oil crisis. We were running out of oil until they invented sport utility vehicles, and then there seems to be enough gasoline for everyone. Is anyone applying any pressure to Detroit to come up with a car that can give you the comfort, give you the mileage, and the clean air? We have people in orbit tonight, this evening, who are coming down after assembling a space station. Now, obviously, they can't make it with iron and steel. They have to use new ideas, new reformulated parts.
Right, exactly.
Do you have any idea if Detroit is doing their job? I mean, this is 25 years after we heard Jerry Ford saying, we need to conserve energy.
You know, it's funny, in Detroit, in Michigan, they're not using MTBE as far as we know. So, you know, that's the irony. They weren't beginning to use it in Washington, D.C. until recently either. You know, I spoke recently to one of New Jersey's environmental reporters, and, you know, he believes, you know, within the next 10 years we're going to move towards electric vehicles or something. We think gasoline eventually is going to probably be history, you know, as soon as the oil companies can think of a way to monopolize probably the next step.
Computers were going to make our lives easier, too.
But in the meantime, you know, it's like you said, let's get rid of it now before the damage is completely done. By the way, they said even if they get rid of MTBE now, the water contamination has been so severe already, it will take the next 15 to 20 years to recover from it, even if they get rid of it today.
Does the geography play any effect in it? Because we live in the Ramapo Valley right now. So the valley comes down this way. We have 287 that traverses through it. Would we have more of a concentration that would settle here, or does it go wherever the wind takes it?
This is the problem. MTBE is actually causing these underground fiberglass tanks, even the new ones that they're supposed to be replaced with, to bleed right through it. So it could happen anywhere. Now they're finding out that MTBE can get in your water not only by way of these leaking underground tanks, but now they're finding even if your neighbor spills gasoline from his lawnmower, you could find out a few months later that your entire private wells are contaminated with unsafe levels of MTBE. And it has reached the point in New Jersey, in at least a half a dozen communities, where residents have been told not only not to drink the water, but not to bathe in the water. You know, we know hundreds of families who have suffered symptoms, health problems from drinking MTBE in their water. That's what's happening now.
What is it going to take? Is it going to take, I don't know, the streets lined up with bodies before someone reacts to this?
It's going to take a lot of lawsuits, and that's what's happening all over the country now. You know, in California, in Santa Monica, real quickly, 1/3 of the water supply was contaminated. 1/3 of the water in Santa Monica is undrinkable. They're not allowed to drink it. Lake Tahoe, 1/3 of the water supply is undrinkable. In Maine, where we have our pristine waters, a lot of the water there is undrinkable. It's happening all over the country now. And the longer MTBE remains a gasoline, the more water contamination we're going to be seeing. And again, you do not have to take the word of oxybusters. You can take the words of hundreds of truthful, knowledgeable scientists with no economic interest.
So when we look at the whole cost of this, we look at people who become ill. They use their insurance, their health insurance. If they're elderly or on Medicaid, they're using the federal dollars needlessly to try to find their solutions to their health problems. This is just one big circle that goes around, and we keep paying more money for it, and our health seems to diminish.
That's right.
What's going on, Barry? What is going on here?
All I can tell you is about the literally thousands of individuals who have called into the Oxybuster hotline to report a multitude of symptoms. And, you know, it affects people from children to elderly. Nobody can hide from getting sick from MTBE and gasoline. And the DEP better wake up and smell the MTBE.
I like that.
Okay?
Barry, why don't you give your phone number in case
Okay.
anybody wants to reach you by telephone?
Yeah, if anybody wants to call us at 609-275-7080, we can even provide you at no charge with a video that discusses our efforts beginning in 1993, and it takes you right up to present time.
And that's 609-275-7080.
Correct.
Barry, I want to really thank you for making that real long trip from Princeton
Not at all.
up to Oakland here, and really for being our guest and for really putting in the time here. One last question.
Sure.
Have you ever received any disparaging phone calls in the night? Has anyone given you any trouble of your political stand on this?
Well, I will tell you that when I was interviewed by the Philadelphia Inquirer, Nancy Phillips, the reporter, told me, she goes, you better sit down for this one. She goes, I'm not sure this is legal, but a couple weeks after you delivered the petitions to Governor Whitman, you made a deposit of $5,000 in your bank at 11:32, and at 11:42, you withdrew that $5,000, and I'm told that this was a payoff from the ethanol industry, which, as you know, is the oil industry's competition. Now, that happened to be the day when my wife deposited $5,000 from one bank account to the other when she bought her Mazda. And then the reporter went on to give me 12 other dates when I went to the bank with the exact amount, the exact time, and so on and so forth. It's frightening to see the lengths, the extent to which our adversaries will go to discredit us.
It's 1999 and Big Brother is watching you.
Isn't that something?
Barry, thank you very much for being with us tonight. This again brings us to the finish line for this month. Many thanks to our guests tonight, guitarist John Sheehan and Barry Grossman of New Jersey Oxybusters, for entertaining and informing us. And if you would like to be a guest on our show to speak on a special topic or subject, if you have an interest or a hobby that you would like to share with our audience, please contact us. The number will be on your screen shortly. My special thanks to the other new TV crew members for a great job on their first show this evening. They are Leo Ramirez, Stacy Kahn, Greg Kelly, and Don Buchanan. So for the Oaklander, I'm Al DiGiacomo. Happy New Year, and thank you for watching.
Oxygenated gas blues. My throat is sore and they're charging me more and more. I took my family for a ride. We came back smelling like formaldehyde. I'm so down, got the oxygenated gas blues. My lungs are sore and they're charging me more and more. Here's the worst part. I tried to go out on a date, but the gas made my heart palpitate. I'm so down, I've got the oxygenated gas blues. My stomach